Hey, it's your girl Profe here to talk about all other commands. You already know how to give affirmative to commands and affirmative vosotros, even though we're not that focused on those. So this pertains to all others, which means negative to commands, affirmative and negative usted commands, affirmative and negative ustedes commands. It also pertains to nosotros commands, but I have that gray because we're not going to focus on those either because a few extra rules apply to them, like with the vosotros. So if you want to tell a friend or a sibling not to do something, or if you want to tell a teacher or a boss to do something or not do something, or if you want to tell a group of people, like when I always ask you guys to do things, this is what you're going to do. You're going to take the present tense yo form of the verb. So that means this box right here. What does that box usually end in? Well, it usually ends in O. So then you drop the O, and then you add the opposite ending. I'm going to put opposite in quotation marks, because if I was doing this in person, I would put that in air quotes. And step 4, if it's a negative command, you would put no in front. So there's 3 steps to these commands. Take the present tense yo, drop the O, add the opposite ending. What does the opposite ending mean? Well, let me show you. It means that if it's an AR verb, it will take ER endings. So you know that AR verbs are usually o, as, a, amos, ais, an. So instead, if you're going to give a negative to command, ace, affirmative or negative usted, a, and affirmative or negative ustedes, n. Why are these boxes affirmative or negative and this one's only negative? Well, because you already know that to give an affirmative to command, you just take the normal he, she form of the verb. Alright, so if you have an ER, IR verb, they're now going to take AR endings. So instead of ace, a, and n, as, a, and an. If I'm going too quickly, press pause, because I am moving on. What else do we need to know about giving these commands? Well, we need to know that we need to be aware of verbs with stem changes, irregular yos, and especially go verbs. So we just need to think about those things before we put them into our commands. What verbs do we know that have irregular yos? Well, here they are. What are their yo forms? Hopefully you could tell me. Ago, pongo, salgo, trigo, vengo, tango, digo. I don't know if we've dealt with recoger before or not. But if this was the yo form, don't write that down because it's going to be wrong. How would we say this? Recogo. But how do we say its infinitive? Recoger. So what is its yo form? Recojo. So we need to be careful of these irregular yos. Please leave space off to the right hand side because we're going to fill in some more information here. But this is what you need for right now. So we'd have to be careful with these. What else do we have to be careful of? Well, there are 6 irregulars. I call them your dishes because look, D-I-S-H-E-S spells dishes, and here they are. Why are these your irregulars? Well, give me the yo forms of them. The yo form of dar is doi. The yo form of ear is, I want you to think real quick, what are the yo forms of all of these? If this is what you said, you are correct. I have this squiggled out for aber because you guys haven't learned it yet. But what's wrong with these yo forms? Why do you think these verbs have irregular forms? Well, what can't you do to them? Once you take the yo form, you can't drop the o because either it's trapped in by a y or there is no o. So you just have to have the 6 irregulars memorized. If you're giving a negative to command, here is what they are. So you'd put no in front, and you would say don't give something, no des, don't go, no vayas, don't know something, no sepas, and so on and so forth. Fill those in, but leave room for 2 more columns. We're going to fill them in together in class. So this is what you need to have in your notes for now, leaving room for 2 more columns. So we'll be talking about these. And what else do we need to be careful of? One more thing. We need to be careful of car, gar, and zar verbs. Please write yours a little bit more neatly than me, maybe center these up a bit. But we've heard of being careful with car, gar, and zar verbs before. Here's some examples: tokar, yegar, and empezar. Well, if we were telling someone don't play something, we wouldn't say this because how would you pronounce it? No toses. We wouldn't say this because how would you pronounce this? No yejes. And we wouldn't say this because what's wrong with this? Well, in Spanish, you can't ze. That's an angry face. So how do we fix this? Well, from the preterite, you guys should know how to fix this. Here's what the correct forms would be: because car verbs change C to QU, gar verbs change G to GU, and zar verbs change Z to C to fix that. Don't forget, this is just a demonstration that your G's and Q's must have tails. So hopefully you guys made a little bit more neatly this information here. And anything else I have to say? I think I've got one more screen to sum it all up. You need to keep these things mentally separated. How do you give an affirmative to command? You take the he, she form of the verb. Asten ven pon sal se ve di. That means if it's an AR verb, it ends in an A. If it's an ER or IR verb, it ends in the letter E. And then you need to know about your all others. Where you yo, drop the O opposite ending. Be careful of irregular yos, dishes, and car, gar, and zar verbs. And of course, a different file in your brain needs to know about pronouns, that you attach them at the end of affirmative commands. And we should put a star right here because we don't want to forget about the accent. And they go before negative commands. So you should now have this all written neatly in your notes. If any of it seemed like too much information, don't worry, we'll practice with it in class.